Hello, Mr. Stern. My name is Austin Antoniuk, and today I'll be pitching my ideas on how we can allocate our resources more effectively after reviewing and examining our revenue over the past decade. Before I begin, I'd like to initially state that my assumption for our market and users will be that the vast majority of our user base will be women and that their demand for our products depends on the alternatives that are available in the electronic stationary bike market. So, as we can see, given the graph from 2017 until 2021, we have been continuously seeing an increase in our revenue by every single year, with our greatest year being during the peak of COVID-19 in 2021. And we have seen since then a continuous decrease from then even up until now, and this is still despite positive things to have occurred with our company, like the launch of the Peloton Row and with the partnership with Hilton, allowing users to find a Peloton machine in almost all locations. All of those great things unfortunately weren't enough to offset the revenue landslide that we've been experiencing since then, and that landslide, well, it's unfortunately kept going up until 2025. Not only that, but it is our worst year since 2021 with $2.49 billion as compared to the $4.02 billion in revenue back in 2021. Unfortunately, our revenue continues to slip, and our company has since then been unable to do something about it to get us out of the landslide that we have been experiencing since COVID-19. All right, so what can be the underlying cause of all this? Well, in truth, I can't be too sure, but from my research, I've been able to at least guess what could be the cause due to the current fitness market, along with how we market Peloton. The market today, for example, isn't what it used to be. It isn't that Peloton is getting worse, but it's unfortunately no longer the one-of-a-kind hot new item that people are now chasing. In other words, it no longer is an inelastic product. And just recently, I accidentally stumbled upon a blog post about someone who claimed to have found a better alternative to our products, even though the alternative was another product that was similar but was cheaper. This, of course, will drive demand away. But if you also just look at the product line on our website, you'll also notice something oddly familiar about all of our products, and it's that every single one of them is a cardio machine. Like we have a bike, a row machine, a treadmill, another bike with a plus sign at the end of the name, all cardio machines. And this severely limits the audience that we are targeting because if we want to simply attract people to the Peloton product, there's a chance they will look at their own lifestyle and see if it correlates or contradicts their lifestyle. So if they are into fitness but they aren't into cardio, unfortunately, they would be the ones out of luck and we wouldn't be able to get any revenue from that. But also, another thing we are now relying on is AI. And like a lot of things a company does, I'm not exactly a hater in all of our economic decision, and this is no different. However, this is very much something that can bite us in the hand if we aren't careful. The Peloton bike, when it came out, it was an ingenious product because it was not reinventing anything. It didn't reinvent the bike, it just combined two already existing products in one. One being the stationary bike, which was around since like the 70s, and a touchscreen display, which has been around since the early 2000s. But now we are combining something that has barely started making huge traction to like last year, and this is a very expensive risk, and it likely will be very expensive to implement. Not to mention the lack of connection that our users will be able to have with the trainer will also steer people away, will drive our demand down from current equilibrium, and also since we won't be using trainers anymore, that'll also limit our supply of trainers. But from this alone, we might still be able to find equilibrium in that, however, it will be at the cost of us having to sell less products for the same price. And lastly, with our previous marketing endeavors, we are making the odd decision to target a very small subsection of our users, if that is what we are even trying to do. With Peloton's collaboration with Respin for researching menopause and the effects exercise can have on it, it will likely cost more money than it will be worth, and the reason being will have to do with the graph I have here on the next slide. As we can see on the right, our biggest consumer or user will have to be women. But amongst all of our users, only 25% of them are within the ages of 45 to 54, which means that only 66% of that 25% demographic are women. And since the age on average for menopause is around that age, that means only maybe half of that 25% demographic, or 12.5% of all of our users, will be able to make use of the menopause technology we just mentioned on the previous slide. So because of that, we ought to be very careful about that going forward if we are even to go through with that at all. But that brings me to my next claim. If we compare the two graphs on either side of me, we will see there's a bit of an odd lack of correlation gender-wise. The left graph we can see claims that the most active gender is men, and that goes against the user demographic we have, being that men only make up a third of all of our users, which means there is a huge market potential to targeting men, which coincidentally brings me to my next slide. The solution to all these problems that I have previously stated can very well be that we just need to bring more men into the Peloton community and create a more unisexual, one-size-fits-all visual for others when they think of Peloton. Because from what we can see from the Peloton user demographic, most people don't really see men finding the Peloton very appealing one way or another. And the good news is, from the photo as we can see on the top right of my screen, which I got from the Peloton homepage, this solution has probably been thankfully recognized, and we are now featuring adverts for the Peloton IQ with meant to better engage the users into seeing Peloton in a more broadened light, not just like simply for women or simply for this subsection of users. However, simply doing this by featuring a manned squat once or twice likely won't be enough, which is why I propose more than anything that we create a product that makes the Peloton brand a brand that can fit into any and all fitness lifestyles, not just one or two. One way I propose we can do this would be with the inclusion of the cable machine. For with the cable machine, you will be able to kill, well, really three birds with this one stone. That being, a cable machine can still very well be used by our female demographic and can even complement other things that the other Peloton machines actually already help you with. Another is it will be able to grab the attention of more men because they will be able to realize that now there is a fitting reason to buy a Peloton product, as the cable machine is very well known amongst men users to be a very versatile machine to fit a lot of their lifestyles. And lastly, it can very well fit a lot of other fitness lifestyles. Goodness, a lot of other fitness lifestyles from strength training to calisthenics. And frankly, this is how I propose we should allocate our resources to have a more effective financial future.